Global Broadcasting Networks presents Coach Talk Radio. Create the time, money, and lifestyle you want with tips, tricks, and techniques that get you started today from some of the best internet minds in the business. Now here are your hosts, internet brand strategist Sandra Beck.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Sandra Beck and this is Coach Talk Radio, and we are visiting today with a really interesting guy. He's got this book out called Discover Your Purpose, How to Use the 5 Life Purpose Profiles to Unlock Your Hidden Potential and Live the Life You Love. Now, I did some shows with this guy on my sister network on Motherhood Talk Radio, and we had him on Powered Up Talk Radio, and what I found was that what he was teaching is ideal for purpose-centered business. Learning about these life profiles have helped me not only personally but professionally in interacting with my staff and my clients and the people around me. So I'm really excited today to introduce to you Rhys Thomas. He's the owner of the Rhys Method. He's got a school behind him that he owns. I mean, this guy's got it going on. So you're going to want to listen through the end of the show. We're going to talk about how these profiles relate to create this successful business that we all want. Rhys, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sandra. Great to be back.
It's great to have you. Rhys, before we get into the content of your life profiles, tell us a little bit about yourself. You have a really interesting and unique background for an author especially. I didn't think athletes could write, but you proved me wrong.
Well, athletes need editors. So my background was a competitive tennis for many years, and then being a tennis pro and running a country club and working with professional players and top juniors and all sorts of stuff in the sort of coaching area of sports and competition and I always sort of on the side, I love martial arts, so I always was studying martial arts as well, and I always wanted to be a tough guy. I never really made it, but I always thought that I would someday be like one of those guys you see in the movies that's a tough guy. But in the meantime, I did learn an enormous amount about energy and focus and sort of what really ticks inside of a person, and I learned a lot about people by teaching thousands and thousands of tennis lessons and working with large groups and women and men and children and older folks and every possible group of people, and I really learned a lot about people, and I found that what I really liked to teach people was how to enjoy being who they are more than having them win a tennis match or hit a great backhand. And I found that when they were enjoying who they were, they could really excel and succeed more readily, and they didn't take the losses as bad, and they were much more likely to perform well when they were enjoying and figured out who they were on the inside. And of course, I was teaching all that to people as I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't, and I didn't really dawn on me till in my 30s that I really wasn't that happy with this business that I'd been running, and I was very successful in a number of different ways, running different businesses, but I never felt like I was really myself. And then I sort of realized, well, what I'm doing for all of my students, which is reminding them that they're more than their job, they're more than their family. I ought to put my money where my mouth is, and I enrolled in an energy medicine school, which then taught me that I actually had no idea who I was, even though I was really good at being who I was, which is a lot of people, especially in business. There ends up being a disconnect between sort of who we're supposed to be in the world and who we actually are, and even though I was successful in an external way in my business, it never felt like the business I wanted to run. It never felt like I was really attracting the customers that I wanted. And now that I've sort of worked through this and recognized that I'm not as much of the achiever businessman as I thought I was, but I'm much more of a creative writer and teacher and spiritual guide type of teacher, now my perfect customer comes to me all the time because they love that I'm teaching them how to how to connect more with their deepest nature, and whether they're business people or stay-at-home folks, or whether they are someone who is working through their midlife crisis and want to change their life in 20 different ways. We really work with people on taking that next step, and so it's kind of like I'm still coaching them, but I'm coaching them for their soul rather than just for their tennis game.
Well, and Rhys, this is really fascinating to me because you talk about being clear about who you are. We all play roles in business. Like when I'm the radio host, I'm a lot different than when I talk to you personally, like, the goofball that sends you pictures about how much I freeze in my home. I mean, these are... like, I am that same person, but yet I'm two different people. And if I'm in front of an audience for internet brand strategy, I'm almost a different person. Or am I the same person? I'm just playing different roles. That's where I start to get confused.
Well, the reality is that most of us do have multiple personality problem, but not in a clinical sense, but in a sense that when you stand up in front of the marketing or branding crowd, which I speak to as well, there's a part of you that thinks, well, maybe they want me to be this other person. They really want this, and so because you can pull that off, it plays pretty well, and it leads them to maybe sort of saying, oh well, she understands us and does that, and which is fine, and so you get some rapport. But truly, what they needed was you to share what you're really passionate about, which is you. And your way of explaining and sharing, and your understanding of marketing, or online marketing, or branding, or whatever it happens to be that you're speaking on, it's truly the inspiration for others comes from the person. And so in business, the most important thing that I teach people is that they do not come to you for what you do. They come to you for who you are. And that doesn't mean that if you're making a really, really crappy, pie, that somehow people are going to come and put up with that, even though you're a great person. You have to match up a really nice service with your own deepest purpose. But it's most important for a business owner and an entrepreneur to really figure out what their big why. That's in the industry, they call it the big why. But the big why isn't just sort of figuring out why I'm going to make a lot of money, but the big why is, what has my life led me to, and what are my real skills here that I share with other people?
Wow, I'm so lost on my own. I was like lost in my own little world going, okay, what is my big why? What do I have to share? I mean, I know what the big overriding principle is in my life. I want to elevate people. I want to give them the knowledge that I didn't have when I was, a little farm girl, kind of thing. And I truly do want to help people. I want to elevate them. Is that what you're talking about, the big why?
Yeah, I mean, your big why comes from it starts really early. You come into the world and you are your big why. You're just like, woo, I love the world, and the world comes to me like this, and you don't worry about the law of attraction or how you're going to get the next client, or how everything that comes to you realize is your life, and it's exactly the way it's supposed to be, and you don't resist any of it. And so it's incredibly abundant when you're young. And then you find out that you live with these very tall people called parents, and they don't necessarily believe in abundance that way. They don't believe that that everything's possible, and that you can fly at times, and you can, in your dreams you can do whatever, and you can and anything you want can come to you. They don't believe that, and they want you to believe what they believe. And so there's a really strong sort of shift at some point in us to stop having that sort of infinite, expanded nature, and what ultimately, if we're really selling and and bringing our message to the world, we've noticed that we gave up a certain quality of ourselves when we were young, and then we kind of like for me, I was this dreamer. I was totally a dreamer, just out there thinking. I was on another planet, and I love to, when I talk about in the book, I talk about you have to find your secret place to kind of know what your mission is in life. And one of my secret places was up way up 80, 90 feet up in this pine tree. There was like one of those pine, like a Christmas tree type of pine tree. So the top was just like a point, and I was way up there where the whole tree is just sort of swaying back and forth. And I would spend hours and hours and hours up there. And that person, that dreamer that was just up there thinking he was flying, realized that 8 or 9 or 10, that it was just like, that's not going to fly. Guys have to have it together. They have to be competitive. I started competing in tennis at 8 years old, and I started being, a little bit more of a tough guy and holding my feelings in and thinking I'm supposed to know how things are going here. And I lived that life of trying to be who I thought society wanted me to be, who I thought my parents wanted me to be. And that very slowly starts chiseling away at your self-esteem. Even if you're successful, you won't. There's a lot of really successful people with very low self-esteem because they know deep down inside that they're sort of holding it together. And so we have this moment in our life where somehow that process of living kind of who we are, but really not, and being really more of what we expect, what we think people expect us to be, and who we're supposed to be. At some point, it doesn't work anymore. At some point, usually it's in the 30s, when people are 40s, when they sort of realize, oh my God, I've done everything that I'm supposed to do, and I'm still not happy. Or my job isn't working. For me, it was my job wasn't working, my relationship wasn't great, and I didn't feel like I was being a very good parent to my children, and so I sort of get that sort of gestalt realization that there's something really missing here. There's something not there. And
Rhys, I got to cut you off. I need to take us to commercial break. When we come back from the break, we are going to talk more about who we are, about being clear about who we are and what our purpose is. And we want to also talk about how that relates to our clients. How does that relate to our business? We're visiting today with Rhys Rhys Thomas, and we're going to come back from the break and we're going to talk more about discovering your purpose.
If you could live your life truly standing in a place of peace, joy, and abundance, wouldn't that make your heart soar? Now you can, with Lessons in Joyful Living, with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi, Mondays at noon Central. Kimberly Rinaldi, having created a highly successful coaching practice, now teaches Lessons in Joyful Living. She believes in empowering others and that through it, you have the ability to break through any and all barriers, thus allowing you to reach your greatest potential and joyfully step into your life's purpose. What used to take weeks, months, or even years, she can now teach you in a matter of hours with her programs. For more on Kim and her show, go to her website, KimberlyRinaldi.com. That's RINALDI.com. Then join us for Lessons in Joyful Living with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi.
It's words you never heard. When searching for new words you never heard, I sometimes come across words from other countries that don't have English equivalents. For instance, culicino is an Italian word for the mark left on a table by a cold glass. Waldeinsamkeit is a German word for a feeling of solitude and connection to nature. Did you notice that Ralph Waldo Emerson's famous book is a part of the word? Kumorebi is a Japanese word to describe the way sunlight looks as it filters through the trees. Sobremesa is a Spanish word that refers to the period of time after a meal when you have conversations with the people you ate with. If someone tells you a joke so badly that you end up laughing at them instead of the punchline, they would be called a gayus in Indonesia.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my new app, Too Funny for Words.
Taking care of business every day. Taking care of business every way. Taking care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business.
Hey, guys and dolls, this is Sandra Beck, and this is Coach Talk Radio, and we're visiting with Rhys Thomas. He's got the best new, hottest business book in town. You guys are going to get yourself a copy. Discover Your Purpose, How to Use the 5 Life Purpose Profiles to Unlock Your Hidden Potential and Live the Life You Love. Now, we all want to live the life we love, and one of the big things that Rhys talks about is we got to understand our big why. And Rhys, I've been through hundreds of hours of business seminars. I've read thousands of business books. Seriously, over 20 years, I bet you I've read over 1,000 business books. When you talk about the big why, to me, one of those terms, the big why, is like what we hear all the time, like, oh, your purpose and your core values. And, we hear those words over and over, but half the time I understand the word, but I don't really understand what it really means. So our big why is like our big what?
Well, one of the things that the profile system offers is a sort of a deeper, rather than a behavioral based kind of like an awareness of who you are, but really sort of like the words core values. Core values are great, except when they are not your actual core values, but they're the values you believe in because you think they're going to make you the most money. But your real core values have to do with sort of this quality within you that's always been there, and there's a sense of warmth in some people. There's a sense of achievement in other people. There's sort of an inspirational element in some people. There's this deep feeling, heart-centered, in some people. There's this creative sort of playfulness in other people. And those are the sort of the elements of what I call the 5 profiles. And your big why, your mission in life has got to have the same energy, the same flavor, the same rhythm as this deeper quality within you, which you need to discover. And that's why I call the book Discover Your Purpose, because once you discover that, then the career that you are born to do makes sense. And so one of the exercises that I do with people to find their big why is just basically asking some basic questions. What do you do and who do you do it for? But most importantly, the question is, if you look back at everybody you've ever worked with, what did they walk away with from you? The successes that you've had, in your life, the times when, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in business, it could just be anybody you've ever interacted with that really walked away, and benefited from who you are and what you do. What is it that they walk away with? And and one of the things that has been true for me, and it's what I teach. It's everything that I teach in my school. I run a 3-year energy medicine school. I teach people to have clarity about this deeper soul quality within them, and then I work with them on how to have enough energy to have the courage to challenge their old programming that says, you can't do that, you're not good enough, just stick with what you have, stay with what you know, because that's safe, and don't be going overboard, and or whatever it happens to be, or your programming is always go for it, spend everything, give it all away, whatever your old programming is that keeps you stuck in a rut. That courage to actually challenge that and step into your life, that's what I've always done. Other people, are incredibly inspiring and allow people to, people walk away and they feel like they can do anything, or other people, they walk away and they feel really loved, really held. And depending upon which of these 5 qualities you have, which of the 5 profiles you are, you're going to have a very different message. So, for instance, since I'll admit it on business radio, I'm a creative idealist. I'm the guy with the great ideas, but tend to find another idea before I'm completely done with one. That's why I said that that not just athletes but creative idealists need editors, because editors are really good at saying no, we're good. You don't need to send me any more. I got enough here. We can make do with what we have. You don't have to change it around again for the 14th time. And a creative idealist, though, would love to say, oh, well, let's rewrite this section and rewrite that section. And they say, no, that's the next book. But each person, my creative idealist, is always going to leave you with some ideas that you have never thought of before. That's what a creative idealist does. And so what my gift is seeing people's greatness, this core soul quality within them, and so what my gift is, people walk away with, is this inner sense of who they are at a deeper level, their purpose. But what's yours and what's each person's? And so your big why isn't like, oh, well, the reason my why is that I make this business and I make this widget because it makes good money and it does a good thing in the world. No, you've got a personal quality within you. A person who's very emotional and soft, their big why is going to be, they're going to leave you feeling more loved, no matter what their business is, than you felt before you met them. The what we call the team players, the really strong, really caring people, are going to make you feel like what you're doing is really important. They will make you feel like what you're doing is the most important thing, and that you feel valued just by being who you are. You will, so if they're a customer or a friend or whatever, they make everyone feel that way in the deepest sense. If you're a knowledgeable, what we call a knowledgeable achiever, if you're an achiever, you are going to educate or show people the most efficient way to express who they are, get from point A to point B, be successful in a business, whatever it is. You're going to guide people and give them structure in their life. And then there's the charismatic leaders who are going to inspire people in one way or the other. And they're going to inspire change in people. They're change agents. And so they're natural. When they inspire somebody, that person is very likely to go out and change their life after they've interacted with them. And so, Sandra, you've got this strong charismatic leader that we've talked about in the past, and you inspire people to change, but you also have a strong what we call a team player, that caring person, and so people also feel very seen and heard by you when you are. I always feel very seen and heard by you when I'm on the radio with you.
Well, that's great, because I just think I'm wonderful and you're wonderful. And, it's nice to have some validation. Do all of the profiles, do we all need validation? It just has to happen in different ways. You talked about some people are you want to help them find the career they're born to do, but then you're stuck with real life of going what am I doing now? So when we find our big why, do we have to change careers if we're not in the right career, or do we just modify ourselves in the career? I guess that's my ham-fisted way of saying, what do we do when we figure out our big why?
Well, when you figure out your big why, you're going to realize that the big why isn't what happens at a business meeting when they're saying, you got to find your big why so you can make some money at it, and to parlay it into money. Of course, your big why will be how you make money, but the big why is something that if you discover your big why is going to be this quality of and brilliance that you bring to the world. You already have it, and it won't matter where you are, what you're doing. I was working as a director of tennis at a very prestigious country club for 18 years, and about, I don't know how many years in, maybe, when I started doing the energy work, I was probably, almost 10 years into it. And I realized this may not be the place that I'm, this is not where I'm going to retire from. I'm not going to be, this is not ultimately my highest mission to coach country club people and to run a big program and run summer camps and things. And I couldn't figure out what it was that I was doing. But when I discovered that I had this deeper mission of waking people up to this deeper quality within them, I could do that wherever I go. I didn't have to change jobs, and actually I often recommend that people, when they do discover that they aren't in the right job, that they stay with it for a while, because often they were in that job, but they did not actually bring their real self to it. And so I spent more than 4 years or 5 years going back to the job when I knew that I was eventually going to leave that job, because I wanted to go and work from my angle on it, from who I truly was. And I hired people differently from there. I connected with my staff differently. I totally connected with my members and my clients and differently. And my the way I looked at all of the elements of the business changed to where it was serving me a lot more than the sort of like going in and being told what to do and all right, I'm doing this and doing that. I started taking charge of my life within that job. And then, of course, very, very, not very soon, but, a number of years later, I'm in a position where I'd also, created something outside the business. I was beginning to move out of it while honing my big why, the real true reason that I'm in the world is to share especially at a business level, is to share that message. And the truth is, though, that whatever you're sharing in business, you should be sharing in your family, in your life, because it's your inspiration that drives you.
Well, and that's so interesting to me because I thought, if you're, in the wrong career, you have to change careers to fit with your profile. But what you're really talking about is like when you said bringing your true self to the game, like bringing your true self, to your job and interacting in a different way. That's got to make you feel pretty good.
It especially when you've done the job as the wrong person, and this is really the key to discovering your purpose and really and understanding that your purpose isn't like a job. It isn't like a job. Most in business, when someone says what's your purpose, they're really saying what's your job. And the truth is that there are jobs that are much better, like teaching in energy medicine school is perfect for a guy like me. Or teaching anything that lets me take people beyond the norm, beyond the sort of like the pragmatic kind of like just, I'm going to do this and this and I'll get to there. I want them to enjoy their lives more. So okay,
I'm going to cut you off. We're going to talk more with Rhys Thomas about purpose-centered business. When we come back from the break, we're going to continue on our discussion about the big why. We're going to talk about the 5 life purpose profiles that he profiles in his book. For more, look up Rhys Thomas, Discover Your Purpose. That's RHYS Thomas. Discover Your Purpose.
Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Be here for Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer, Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Tricia will dig deep into topics that matter most to women, inspiring women to make a change in their own lives and to make a difference in the world, and maybe even deep within their own hearts. Tricia is a wife, mom, speaker, family expert, and author of 24 books. For more information on Tricia and Living Inspired, go to her website, TriciaGoyer.com. That's TriciaGoyer.com. Tricia's vision is to be the voice of hope and possibility for women of all ages. Her intention is to serve ordinary women by encouraging extraordinary things with God's help. Tricia expresses real life, real hope for real women. Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer. Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
It's words you never heard.
I don't know about you, but I love peanut butter. Peanut butter was the pâté of my childhood. Whenever I was grub-struck and needed to eat on the scattery or in a hurry, there was nothing better than a peanut butter sandwich. Grub-struck is another word for exhausted from hunger. November is National Peanut Butter Month, and it's no wonder we celebrate as Americans consume enough peanut butter in a year to create over 10 billion peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Any product labeled peanut butter in the U.S. must contain no less than 90% peanuts. And it takes about 550 peanuts to make one 12-ounce jar of peanut butter. What's a word for the fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth? Arachibutyophobia.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my new app, Too Funny for Words.
Taking care of business every day. Taking care of business every way.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Rhys Thomas, and we are talking about his new book, Discover Your Purpose, How to Use the 5 Life Purpose Profiles to Unlock Your Hidden Potential and Live the Life You Were Meant to Live. Or live the life you want. I can't, but remember what it is. But it's the whole point is when we find out who we are and we find out how we show up, or we figure out how we're supposed to show up, it makes a huge difference. In the earlier part of the show, Rhys was talking about how he showed up in his existing job. He didn't change his existing job, but changed how he was doing his job. Rhys, I want to ask you, how did that feel when you started showing up as your authentic self, if you will? I mean, I know that's like a buzzword, but that's what we're talking about, being yourself.
Yeah, it was like, first of all, I didn't even know I was at work for a while. So I started hiring people differently. I hired people based on the profiles, which is a totally an essential thing for business people to know. If you're hiring for a certain position, you have to know who is going to enjoy being in that position, not just who is capable of doing that job, but and like yourself, how you've got a job. Is it something that you actually have the skills to do that job? And so when I realized that I had the skills to do what I was doing, but I'd been trying to do it from another person, another way, I was miserable. And when I brought my real self to the position and was much more creative and open and playful in what I did, it just the whole thing turned around, and I found that I had so much more fun at work. Of course, I was at a country club. There are certain factions that would like you to not have so much fun and actually just sort of stick to the plan and never and so I didn't, as much as I was making friends with many more people. There were certain sort of the board members were kind of like, well, he seems to be having too much fun over there. He's making too much money now. So there's all sorts of things that I all of a sudden was doing that didn't really jive with the old me. And sometimes you'll have people that like the old you better because the old you was trying to please them for their sake, not for your sake. And then that can become a conflict with some people. But for the people that were really waiting for me to show up as me, they got it. They really got it, and they really, everybody benefited, including me, from doing that. So you can't let the naysayer stop you from doing it. But yes, I totally woke up. Now you had told a story about a time when you were working, that has the other side of this as well.
I did. I ran a real estate company in Beverly Hills for many years, and every year I felt smaller and smaller and smaller. And I was doing what I loved to do, and I was doing what I knew how to do, but the way I had to go about it was really difficult. I had to minimize a lot. I had to minimize my skills. I had to keep my opinions to myself. I had to behave, which is really hard for me, and kind of plug myself into this corporate environment. And upon reflection, I look back and I go, Rhys, I don't know if the environment forced me to do that as much as I thought I needed to interact and be that person. Not being who you are is a tremendous amount of effort. It takes so much energy out of your day to be something you're not.
Right, and yet you were in a leadership position there, and so the other side of this is sometimes you're in a job that actually really plays to your strengths, but when you were under a strong employer, you then played small for that person. But I think you also mentioned in that story that when she went away, you made her a ton of money, right? You were
absolutely.
When you were on your own, you excelled.
Absolutely. Like I think about it like when the cuffs were taken off, like when my handcuffs were taken off and I could just do my thing, I knocked it out of the park. And that was one of the things, like when I left corporate America and formed my own corporation and became my own corporate America, there were so many things, Rhys, that I did. And some of them were only meaningful to me. Like I went out and I bought special ordered all these pink office supplies, like things that I couldn't have, that not that I care that much about pink, but I wanted them just because I couldn't have them. There wasn't that freedom that I needed. And when I formed my own corporation and all of a sudden I could be everything as goofy and silly and, smart and intellectual as I could be all those things, but not be put in any box. I actually gave myself permission to be who I was. It was a whole different ballgame.
True, and so now that you've discovered that, you also notice that when that person came out in your previous job, when you were actually willing to be that person, because you were willing to be that person sometimes when the cat's not around, the mice play, and you were able to be that, and that was actually. Sort of like you always had pieces of sort of like that's the person I love to be, but we have these vows that say, well, in this scenario, in this situation, the adult person, the one on my boss, I always have to play smaller, or I have to hold myself down around that person. But the truth is that even in that other business, you could have gone back and been that person, that bubbly, alive. You could have brought pink in, and you could have inspired people in a totally different way, and enjoyed the work for as long as you stayed there. Of course, as a really strong charismatic leader, you're going to want to run your own thing at some point. You don't want to be working for anybody, and you either need to take over your boss's job or go and find your own leadership position. But that's because you're a leader by nature. But the truth was that you needed at some point, even if you couldn't leave that job, to embody within yourself that quality of independence and fun and your flavor, and make sure, as a good charismatic leader would do, make sure that serves the greater good of the company. And when the company sees the bottom line and you are attracting more business and you're doing these, that will be, they will put up with your pink.
Well, and the funny thing is, nobody ever really said no to me. I have to be honest here and say most of this putting in a box was all me. I really can't think back to, other than some of the big blues, the big executives that would look at me funny or give me a little like, oh, you're really going to do that? Are you really going to say that? You're really going to produce that? But nobody really came down with a hammer fist and said no. It was all me. It was my perception of the role I needed to play to be successful, except I kept leaking out. I was like a big balloon filled with water, and there were like a little pinhole would come out, and my personality would come out, my comments would come out, my ideas would come out. So I have to be fair, Rhys, and say it was more me putting myself in a box than anyone else, because I never really tested the limits to see how far I could go.
Right, and that's true of everybody. Nobody stops you from being who you are. Unless somebody's actually chaining you down, like you said, the cuffs came off. You have as a child and growing up, you learned some rules about corporate from your parents. If your dad was a big corporate person or whatever, you learned the way it operates, the way it works, and it won't matter what they would actually put up with. Internally, you're your own slave driver. You're your own limiter, and it's when you discover your purpose again, you'll actually discover that childlike quality within you that is really the exuberant and motivating and inspiring part of you. So one of the things I'd like to share, and I don't know how much we've got time coming up here, but is just, if you are trying to share your message, let's say you're a charismatic leader, let's just say, and you've got to share your message with everybody. You've got 5 different types of people in the world, and so when you're trying to inspire other charismatic leaders, how do you do it? What do you do when you know you're in a room with a charismatic leader or somebody who's really a go-getter? What do you do? How do you talk to them?
Like for me?
For you.
I don't know. Now you got me nervous all on the air.
Okay. All right. I'll just go through. I'll go through the 5s and see if this is.
I don't want to get it wrong.
I know. But you will. I mean, the reason I asked you these is because I know that you're going to say, "Oh my God, I do that automatically." Because charismatic leaders do this stuff automatically. When they're with a charismatic leader, they push the envelope. The charismatic leader likes to know that they can make money fast, and this thing can last for a certain number of years, and then I want to sell that and move to the next thing. I want to be constantly expanding and growing, and it better have passion in it and something that really drives them. If you're talking to and you're working with, and your client happens to be, it doesn't matter what you're selling, you have to sell to the person's what they need. And so learning I'm putting together, I'm taking from the Discover Your Purpose, I'm putting together a business book now, and in the basic element, of success, as far as I'm concerned, is helping people get what they want while doing what makes you happy. And that's really the key here. So that you want to inspire people to buy your product or expand their businesses or do whatever it is that you're sell them real estate. But when you have a client that's a charismatic leader, they better see how this is going to really make something big happen in their life. If you're dealing with a knowledgeable achiever, if you're dealing with these people that are much more focused on due diligence, things like that, you have to make sure that you inspire them to see that this is going to be a long-term type of an investment and focus, and they're going to be able to, see regular growth, or this is going to support them in a very organized and structured way, and you can prove it mathematically for them. And in a they like to see, they do like the due diligence. So you inspire them with numbers and with sort of proof. And then,
Rhys, I'm going to take us to commercial break. I'm going to break you up here because you're right. One of the things is, as we have these discussions, when you asked me that question, I blanked because I don't really think about it. It happens automatically. It happens so fast. And it's great to dissect these different profiles to find out, what people want, what makes them tick. Because you're right. Some people, it's automatic. They don't even have to think about it. But for the rest of us, it's good to have this dissection so we can kind of add this to our skill set and our tool bag in, having our own success in however we define it. Now, we're talking today, this is Coach Talk Radio, we're talking today with Rhys Thomas. He's got a book out there. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it any number of booksellers. Discover Your Purpose, How to Use the 5 Life Purpose Profiles to Unlock Your Hidden Potential and Live the Life You Are Meant to Live.
Listen, something is brewing. The beautiful business evolution is coming. The way we do business is about to change for the better, forever. This is real business at its very best. On Beautiful Business Radio, you will learn what it means to truly prosper, how to nourish yourself and your business, how to earn what you deserve and make a difference in the world. The tide is rising, the change is here. Discover a new way to live, love, and partner with yourself and your business on Philippa Rowlands Presents Beautiful Business Radio, where you matter and your business thrives, every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, only here on the Woohoo Radio Network.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Eating fruit and vegetables every day is smart and so beneficial. A good plan is to have a piece of fruit and or a vegetable at each meal. It's easy to incorporate fruit at breakfast and vegetables at lunch and dinner. Remember to keep your diet colorful, literally. When choosing fresh produce, look for deep colors. Dark colors are packed with nutrition. Your best choices are red tomatoes, dark leafy greens, and anything that is rich orange, red, or yellow in color. Sweet potatoes, carrots, green peas, garlic and onions, red and green peppers, and broccoli are all good choices. For fruit, choose strawberries, peaches, watermelon, mangoes, or grapes. Keep your choices colorful and full of important minerals and vitamins. I'm Annette Hammond. If you're a fan of Fitness Minute, like us on Facebook at Fitness Minute with Annette Hammond.
Taking care of business every day. Taking care of business every way. Taking care of business.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Sandra Beck and this is Coach Talk Radio, and we're visiting today with Rhys Thomas. Discover Your Purpose is his book. Now, he's got a website out there. I'm gonna segue away, and there's no promotional fees paid for today. This is just a topic that I think is really interesting because, for example, if you're a coach and you're teaching people, like I've coached salespeople for years, but it's really important that you help people in your coaching practice understand these profiles, because they're a lot different than the DISC profiles and some of the other profiling things out there. Now, those all have their value, but this has a unique value in that it's real simple. It puts it into 5 different categories, and people have certain needs and defenses and certain things in each one of these categories. So to understand these and to teach in your coaching practice, an understanding of these profiles, you can really, really expedite. Like for me, it's all about demystifying the sales process. Why are some salespeople so good and some aren't? Why are some people able to close? And I think, Rhys, it's because they understand intuitively your profiles, but that's only a small segment of the population. So let's, before we delve into that deeper, I want to talk about what's available on the discoveryourpurposebook.com site.
So when you go to discoveryourpurposebook.com, you can buy my book, Discover Your Purpose. But there's also some video trainings in there, and there's a link to a member site which gives you all sorts of access to profile information, the profile assessments, things that will help you know who you are, and then once you've done that, you can see that you can actually use some of these assessments to sort of say to one of your clients, "Hey, take this assessment. Tell me how you come out," and it'll open a conversation where you can actually help people understand who they really are. One of the greatest things about coaching, and that was I was a coach for many, many years to get people to perform well in the sports arena. And there's no difference in business, and to get someone to perform well, they have to feel comfortable with what they're doing and who they are out there. And when a client comes to you and they are sure that they want to run a certain type of business or do something, and you can see that it's not in their wheelhouse, in their natural, if a creative idealist comes in and says, "Hey, my boss is thinking about upgrading me to being a manager," you say, "No, never. They're never going to be managers of people. They were being upgraded to the next level because they were so good at the creative process, but they're not going to be people because they don't manage people that way. They manage people through just sort of playing with them and having ideas with them, not the structure." So knowing that about somebody, or knowing someone who's really a strong sort of what we call the team player. They come in and they say, I've been told that I'm a massage therapist. I need to go out and run my own business. That's what I need to do. I need to run my own business. Can you help me set up my own business? You should say, absolutely not. Not until you get a partner. not until you know how, not until, so we're going to look around and see who else in your area of all your friends is also wants to do this business and is really good at that, because a team player needs a partner to really make it work. They're not going to excel by themselves, because by their nature, they excel in the world through who they partner with in life. So knowing these things, and knowing these 5 different basic qualities about people, and then seeing that can demystify why you do what you do. So often, in business coaching, there's a formula. You do this, you learn that, you do a launch, you bring certain clients in, you structure this way, you get you get a VA, you do these things, you do all these things that are sort of like, this system works, but that system only works for charismatic leaders and knowledgeable achievers. It doesn't work for team players, emotional intelligence specialists, and creative idealists, even though you can coach them into having very successful careers, but they don't do it in the structured, sort of like the normal way. So it's important that if you're a coach, that you learn how to assess these people, so you aren't 6 months into your coaching and you're realizing they can't do anything I'm asking them to do, and I can't figure out even what to do with them. You just start right off the bat realizing they're never going to be able to do that thing, but they can totally do this over here. And so the types of businesses you suggest that they work with, if they, so for instance, if I came to you as a business coach and said, hey, I'm going to run $1 million energy medicine school, you would think I was out of my mind. But because it matches up with what I do, what I'm born to do, and I have this unique proposition that nobody else has, and I have mastered the profile so that everybody who walks in the door gets seen, heard, and understood. Whether they learn anything about energy medicine or not, they completely are understood and heard and supported and living their life at a higher level. That's what people are after. People want to be seen, heard, and understood more than anything else. If you're working with them as clients, you can't see them, hear them, and understand them if you're always trying to make them like you.
Wow. And it's so much more effort. Like, one of the things I will say after, reading your book and studying your materials is it makes things a lot easier. It's easier, it's faster, it's quicker communication, and it's less conflict, which, is huge for people in business today. Right. And the idea of less conflict. Oftentimes you'll have a client and we'll talk next time we get together. I think we'll talk about how to hire. But if you have an employee or a client who's really stuck, each one of these 5 profiles gets stuck completely differently than the others, and the method of getting them out of being stuck is totally different. So the motivation, what motivates them to get out of their spinning pattern or their self-sabotaging patterns or their people-pleasing patterns is very different for each one. And often, being able to show people that they've been trying. I mean, when I changed, I shifted from thinking I was this knowledgeable, achieving, business person that's going to run corporations, and when I did the work, I realized, oh, that's really never going to serve me. And I was the most thankful for the teacher showing me that was never going to work for me in my life, so that I could then start focusing and start moving on and really doing the work that I was going to love in my life. It's amazing to me, Rhys, one of the things that you bring to the table today, and I just want to take a second to commend you as an inspiration to other people listening today. Here you are, you had one successful career, you parlayed it into another successful career, you created a system, you created a school outside the Boston area, and this is what you're talking about. When I read your biography and I say, oh, he's a certified energy medicine practitioner, that's kind of cool. A Reiki master, that's kind of cool. Like 2nd degree black belt. Okay, that's really cool, because right then and there is the integration of so many different things that don't fit the traditional mold that we have all expected from a successful executive. And quite frankly, you fit the role of successful executive, but yet you've pulled all these different parts of you together to be uniquely you. Right.
Right, and there's a randomness to a person like myself, who's a creative idealist, that doesn't exist in someone who's more structured. The person I thought I was supposed to be would have done things in a very structured, organized way, and I may have taken the path less taken, the one that might weave back and forth and try different things. But every time I had the shiny object or the squirrel, kind of a response to life, it actually called me to something that taught me something that I would have never have learned had I stuck with the plan. And so I've learned in my life that I need to deliver new ideas. That means that I have to be distracted sometimes from the good ideas that I currently have, because those aren't even the end result. They're not even, this Discover Your Purpose, the book, the 5 profiles. Even that is going to keep evolving and getting even deeper and more powerful for people, because that's what's going to make the job fun for me. And the people that are, get through one section of that's why I run a 3-year program in training, because we are, every time I'm done with one, it's like, we need more of that. We got to get more of that. We got to go even deeper.
Well, and that's, to go back to my, old, business roots, that's Edward Deming's. That's continual improvement. You're continually improving and evolving. But what I'm hearing from you is you're not continually improving for the end result. You're continually improving because of what you feel, notice, see, think, any of those things that come at the point, and the byproduct is the continual improvement.
Right. So I'm by my nature, I'm a person that's constantly looking to make something better. Make it so no matter what I'm doing, I'm always looking for the creative solution to making this even smarter, even deeper, even more fantastic. And that's my nature. And so to find a career that fits with that makes total sense. And so for each person, finding this deeper quality within you, knowing that you're a charismatic leader, knowing you love to speak to people, and doing it in a creative and caring way for millions of people, that's why you're doing what you're doing. And this is why I do what I do. And so we are good examples for people of how do you make this choice? Well, you had to discover something deep within you and then really follow that.
Well, and I think that's the nature of thought leaders. We lead people into thinking differently. We lead people to having different thoughts, and therefore, they change, their environment changes around them. But it's a process. I think it's really important to say that this, you didn't wake up one day and switch gears from being, a successful 27 long year career as a professional tennis coach and speaker and just switch gears really quickly. It's a process that you evolved into personally.
Yeah, it really took a lot of inner work, which is why I teach what I do. And we have a lot of business people that come into our program to learn what's underneath we all have a desire to make great money and have a great career, but what really drives it? Where do I get the energy from? Well, that's the self-discovery part.
All right. Well, we're going to be back next week with Rhys Thomas. We're actually going to spend 4 weeks together because there's so much material to cover. This is so important. It's so vital for coaches and business people and entrepreneurs to have access to this information. You can find this book at discoveryourpurposebook.com. The author is Rhys Thomas, R-H-Y-S Thomas, and you're not going to be disappointed. This is a book that I want to see on every single shelf in every office in every country in the world, because it's that important, it's that powerful, and it's that easy to implement.
Thank you for listening. On behalf of Sandra Beck and Scott Frazier, we want you to get out there today to make more money with less time and effort so you can live the life you want. Tune in next week for more tips, tricks, and techniques from Coach Talk Radio.